Hello. Before I dive in, first things first, I'll just invite you to allow your body to breathe in the way that feels most natural and pleasant. Not so much about focusing on your breath as it is being in pleasant connection with a life force that animates your breathing. And I'm actually going to go more into that in this video. So before I do so, I'll just offer the reminders that nothing about you needs to be any different. And everything I offer is an invitation. So if it doesn't feel good, don't do it. And treat all knowledge and wisdom I try to share as an invitation for you to develop your own, not to position myself as the ultimate expert. Well, as I said earlier, the way I instruct breathing is less about focusing on your breath than it is about being in pleasant connection with a life force that animates your sense of breathing. Why would I say that? Uh, One, it's actually just a more pleasant way to go about it. You can't actually change or alter life force. It's always there. It's always animating your body, whether you're tired or energetic, whether you're old or young. There's life force there until it's not. And who knows what comes after this. And so often we can get caught up in doing the breathing exercises right or being focused. There's also that reason I say allow and be in pleasant connection. It's really about trying to hone into a sort of effortless effort, as one of my favorite teachers, Adi Ashanti, likes to say. And I'm sure many of others have said. It's really about coming into the most natural way of being in organic process, which is what we are. We're always unfolding, never the same moment to moment. Uh, And that sense of there being some life force underneath animating all of this might be the only thing that's a constant. That's at least where I'm operating from at the moment. And there's so much strain in our culture. All of our eyes are strained from looking at phones and computers and TV screens all the time. All of our brains are strained from all the content and all the ways that we've been taught that learning looks, from all the ways we analyze ourselves, our relationships in the world. That rarely do we get to be in that pleasant, natural state of being. And in fact, we get really afraid of it. We think that if we're not perhaps constantly working on ourselves, that we'll fall behind in some sort of way, or we'll end up losing something or being hurt in some sort of way, that we'll miss out on something, that our lives are about collecting and consuming. And it's not to say that those things are inherently bad. You kind of have to consume some things to stay alive. um, but when it becomes such a chronic mindset that we're so living that far outside of ourselves, we can miss out on a lot of the natural magic. And so, coming back to that life force, I'll invite you to now connect with your sense of sight and just allow your eyes to do what they naturally want to do. This is an instruction I get from Organic Intelligence, which is a really cool somatic therapy modality. But, anyways, allow your eyes to do whatever they naturally want to do. Whether they want to wander, whether they want to fixate, whether they want to rest. And the little tweak I'll invite here is, again, not to focus on seeking anything out with your sense of sight, and not to focus your sense of sight itself, but instead, not to focus on your sense of sight itself, but instead to be in pleasant connection with the life force that animates your sense of sight. It might sound abstract, but just kind of sense into what's underneath that. What makes that alive moment to moment? I'm not trying to get an image of this life force, but just trying to feel into that aliveness. It's always here, even when your eyes are closed and it's dark. Your sense of sight doesn't stop working when you're asleep either. Our mind, our senses, our bodies, they're always filled with life force, and as long as we're alive. And continuing with this instruction, just allow your experience of the sense of sight to be as pleasant as it can be moment to moment. Not straining to make it any different, but just enjoying your sense of sight. And notice, is this an easy or difficult practice for you? Reminder, all of this is called practice. It's called practice for a reason. There's no good or bad or right or wrong. Curious exploration. And now you can switch to a different sense. Switch to your hearing. Listen in the way that feels most naturally pleasant. Allow your sense of hearing to do whatever it naturally wants to do. Really trying to be in pleasant connection with the life force that animates it. And what happens if, instead of seeking out sounds or trying to label them or figure out where they are, whether they're good or bad, whether they're pleasant or unpleasant, what if you practice just staying in pleasant connection with the life force that is underneath that sense of hearing. Not trying to make anything different, just practicing being. Now you can do this and do it with all of your senses. You can do it with your thinking too. That might sound strange, but just actually be in connection with your sense of your thinking. And instead of trying to grasp for thoughts, trying to evaluate them, just enjoy the underlying felt sense of them, trying to be in pleasant connection with the aliveness. This is a process by which, one, we can develop a bit of equanimity where we're not so thrown off by pleasant versus unpleasant, but instead we hold everything that arrives with a spacious graciousness. And we can build off it too. Really, one thing that I've come to, I've almost started specializing in working with couples and relationships because that's where my first few clients have emerged. Um, and what's about the most powerful practice is discovering the ways in which you can attune to each other, attune to the pleasant aliveness of connection, and get to a point where doing as little as possible together can be deeply fulfilling. Just being in the most basic fundamental connection and resonance and co-regulation. More on that to come soon. But for now, these are practices of co-regulating or just regulating or whatever. The words don't have to be super precise as long as they point you back to as long as they point you back to whatever your journey is. That's how I'll name it today, and that's how I'll close for the day. Take good care of yourselves, and don't be afraid to reach out with questions or curiosities. If you have any interest in working together, anybody gets a free 30-minute consult. If you're somebody who has a similar skill set or a complementary one, and you want to collaborate in some sort of way, I am always interested. So say hi, check the links below, and hope you're having a good day.